On the channel, I love to do a series in which I spotlight the top players from the transfer portal, and today we're going to continue that. We're going to take a look at the top 10 quarterbacks in this year's portal and how they've ended up doing so far in 2025. The video is very self-explanatory, but before we get started, if you're a big fan of college football, be sure to subscribe to the channel, leave a like if you want to support today's video, and let me know what player, team, topic, or situation I can cover next. Now let's go ahead and get started and talk about how the top 10 portal QBs from 2025 have done. Okay, so coming in at number 10, we have Granowski. It's no secret that Iowa has been terrible at the quarterback position in recent memory, and Granowski was brought in to change that. He was listed as the number 10 quarterback in the country, but going back in time, he was a no-name recruit from Illinois who ended up at South Dakota State. He ended up playing 4 years for the Jackrabbits and was absolutely insane. He had nearly 10,000 yards, over 90 touchdowns, and that was just through the air. He also ran for about 2,000 yards and 40 touchdowns, and after a terrific FCS career, Granowski would transfer up to Iowa. So far in 2025, he's been alright. He's passed for 1,363 yards, 7 touchdowns, and 6 picks. Those numbers are not great, but when you take a look at what he's done on the ground, he's ran the ball over 100 times for 427 yards and 13 touchdowns. He has combined for 20 scores for Iowa, and they're not known for having a great offense. I'd say he was a step up, but honestly still has been a bit underwhelming. I also don't really know how to gauge it because it is Iowa. Coming in at number 9, we have Connor Wigman. At one point, he was considered a 5-star recruit, and as coming out of Bridgeland High School, he was one of the most sought-after quarterbacks in the country, coming in at number 3 in the 24/7 Sports rankings. He was even number 2 on the composite. He would arrive at Texas A&M and would actually get a chance to play a bit his freshman year, throwing for 896 yards with 8 touchdowns. He started the first part of 2023 before he would eventually get hurt, and he had about 1,000 yards and 8 scores in that one. In 2024, he was given top 10 NFL draft pick hype, but unfortunately, he had an injury and flamed out and was benched in favor of Marcel Reed. Wigman threw for 800 yards and 3 touchdowns and had 5 interceptions. Still though, based on his potential and his past recruiting ranking, Wigman was considered the number 9 quarterback, and Willie Fritz was looking to upgrade the quarterback position at Houston. So far in 2025, Wigman has definitely done that, as not only has Houston had a good season, but he's thrown for just under 2,300 yards with 20 touchdowns. He's also ran for 523 yards and 9 scores, and Wigman has been really good for them. I wouldn't say he's been a superstar, but he's 100% lived up to the hype and has helped carry Houston back to relevancy in the Big 12. Good for him. At number 8, we have Malik Murphy. Coming out of the state of California, Murphy was one of the top quarterbacks in the class of 2022 and would decide to commit to Texas. He finished at number 9 in the 24/7 Sports rankings, and through his first few years, he was nothing more than just a backup. I mean, Texas did have Quinn Ewers. Murphy would appear in spot-up duty for the Longhorns, passing for 400 yards and 3 touchdowns. He would decide to transfer to Duke ahead of the 2024 season, where he broke out. He passed for about 3,000 yards and 26 touchdowns, but Duke was trying to look in a new direction and find a player that fit their system better, so Murphy was sort of forced out the door. The number 8 transfer decided to go to Oregon State, where he's had a rough year. He's thrown for 1,800 yards with 9 touchdowns and 8 picks, and has minus 58 rushing yards. But we can't really blame Murphy. Oregon State is a complete dumpster fire right now, so no quarterback in the country is going to have success there. Either way, it's disappointing that Murphy has had a bit of a fall off, but it's hard to blame him. He probably could be a little bit better, but not a lot of this is his fault at this point. Ironically, the quarterback ranked right ahead of Murphy was Darien Mensah, his replacement, and coming out of California, he was a little-known recruit who found his way to Tulane because of a social media post. That was honestly really cool, and I've done a full-length video on him. Mensah would arrive at Tulane and would back up Michael Pratt for a year before winning the starting job in 2024 under first-year head coach John Sumrall. Mensah threw for 2,700 yards and 22 touchdowns, and because of his successful first year, he would decide to enter the portal. He became the number 7 quarterback and garnered $8 million for a deal to go to Duke. So far in his first season there, he has thrown for 3,182 yards with 26 touchdowns and 4 picks. While Duke hasn't had as much success as they probably hope, Mensah has been solid. He's playing his way into potentially being drafted this year, is in the top 5 in most categories, and has been really good. It was definitely a good get for the Blue Devil. Ahead of him, we have Cromanhawk. He ended up coming out of Savannah, Georgia, as while he was at Benedictine Military School, he put up crazy numbers, but wasn't really that highly regarded. Florida State was the first school to really pursue him, so he committed there. He eventually blew up into a borderline 5-star recruit and would arrive at Florida State ahead of the 2024 season. Scouts could not wait for him to get to Tallahassee, but in limited action, he threw for 500 yards with 3 touchdowns and 2 picks. Granted, Florida State was in a disastrous spot in 2024, so him transferring many thought would raise his ceiling. He became the number 6 quarterback in the portal and would head over to Mississippi State. Ultimately, it's a head-scratcher as he's the 3rd-string quarterback there behind Blake Shapen and true freshman Kamario Taylor. He's honestly not really been used, as he's just thrown 4 passes this year. Cromanhawk has definitely been a bust, but at the same time, he hasn't got on the field, so we don't really know how good he is. I have no clue what he's going to do next, but I wouldn't be shocked if he transfers again, because Kamario Taylor is the future there. Coming in at number 5, we need to talk about Jiren Saga Palatelli. He's one of the hottest names in college football right now, as going back in time, he came out of the state of Hawaii and went to Campbell High School. While he was there, he rose from a no-name 3-star to one of the top quarterbacks in the nation. He passed for 10,653 yards and ended up becoming a 5-star recruit. He would flip from Cal to Oregon, but after just a couple of days in Eugene, Jiren would decide to transfer back to Cal. Ohio State transfer Devin Brown also came in, but JKS was named the starting quarterback for Cal. Ultimately, he's had a great year, as Jiren has thrown for 2,787 yards, 13 touchdowns, and 9 interceptions. While he's rushed for minus 135 yards, he has scored 3 times, and Cal right now is not an easy place to play quarterback, but Jiren has been good, following in the footsteps of Fernando Mendoza, and maybe he transfers and maybe he doesn't. We don't really know who they're going to hire, but honestly, JKS should look elsewhere because I think he's a special talent, and I don't want him to be wasted. Yeah, speaking of that guy who was there before JKS, Fernando Mendoza was number 4 in this year's transfer portal. After being a 2-star recruit from Miami, Florida, Fernando Mendoza would flip from Yale to Cal, and this was a huge get for the Golden Bears. They just didn't know it at the time. Fernando had pretty much endless potential, but he wouldn't get a chance to showcase it until the end of the 2023 season. He'd end up throwing for 1,700 yards and 14 touchdowns and was named the starter going into 2024. He helped Cal get off to a decent start, as Fernando threw for over 3,000 yards with 16 touchdowns and 6 picks. Mendoza had a lot of potential and would decide to enter the transfer portal after the 2024 season. With his little brother Alberto already being at Indiana because he was committed to JMU when Sig took the IU job, Fernando had an easy in at IU, and they needed a new starting quarterback after Curtis Rourke had left. So far this year, Mendoza has had an insane season, throwing for 2,641 yards with 30 touchdowns and 5 picks, and 200 yards and 5 scores on the ground. Personally, I think he should be the frontrunner for the Heisman, but other people disagree with that. Fernando has led Indiana to an undefeated season. They're currently ranked number 2 in the nation, and they're going to get a second straight playoff berth. Fernando is also the projected number 1 overall pick, so you could say scouts did a good job evaluating him and putting him at number 4, and he should have been higher. At number 3, we had what in my opinion was my favorite transfer quarterback going into this year, and that was John Matir. Coming out of Little Elm, Texas, Matir was a no-name recruit. At one point, he was considered a 2-star recruit, was committed to Central Arkansas, and had really no future playing big-time college football. But he was discovered by the Washington State, but he was eventually given a late offer to go to Washington State, and he did well. After sitting behind Cam Ward for 2 seasons, Matir would take over in 2024, throwing for 3,139 yards and 29 touchdowns. It didn't stop there though, as he also ran for 826 yards and 15 scores, and Matir became one of the top available players in the country. At one point, he was considered the number 1 overall transfer quarterback and committed to Oklahoma following his offensive coordinator Ben Arbuckle. This year has been a mixed bag for him. He's thrown for 2,300 yards with 10 touchdowns and has also ran for 7 more, but he has dealt with an injury. Oklahoma is also having a good year and has a good chance at going to the college football playoff, so it's hard to say he's been a bust, but compared to the numbers he put up at Washington State and what many projected, he has been a tad bit disappointing and might have to return in 2026. And at number 2, we're going to have to talk about Carson Beck. After originally being both a football and baseball prodigy, the 4-star recruit would wait his turn in Athens, throwing for 6 touchdowns as a backup in 2021 and 2022, before finally taking over as the starter in 2023. Beck threw for 3,900 yards and 24 touchdowns, but would decide to return for the 2024 season. This ultimately wouldn't be great, as his yards, completion percentage, and interceptions all got worse, but he did throw for 28 touchdowns. Instead of once again going off to the NFL, Beck ended up getting paid and replaced Cam Ward at Miami. So far this year, he has thrown for 2,800 yards and 22 touchdowns with 9 interceptions. He has had some late game mess ups, especially in that Louisville game, but for the most part, he's been decent, and Miami still has a shot at the playoff as well, and that's what they're paying him to do. I wouldn't call him a bust, but he has regressed since the 2023 season. And finally, at number 1, we have to talk about Nico. I have talked about him so many times on the channel, I'm starting to get a bit sick of it, but coming out of Long Beach, California, he was a volleyball prodigy and one of the first huge winners of NIL. He got a huge deal to go to Tennessee, and the 5-star recruit would start as a sophomore in 2024. He threw for 2,600 yards and 19 touchdowns, and after getting skull-crushed in the college football playoff, demanded more money. Josh Heupel showed him the door, they brought in Joey Aguilar, and Nico ended up going over to UCLA. Tino Sunseri was supposed to get the most out of him, but that didn't end up happening. So far this year, it hasn't been great for him, as he's only thrown for 1,700 yards and 12 touchdowns, and he has more interceptions. UCLA is also not doing very well, but he has improved his ground game, running for nearly 500 yards and 4 scores. Nico has been a below average quarterback to begin with, but for his hype coming out of high school, how he left Tennessee, and for him being ranked number 1, he's been a bust. But yeah, for the most part, these guys have all been super successful. A lot of them have played better than expected. Scouts did a good job on this, and what do you guys think? What do you think of these 10 guys, and what topic should I do next? Be sure to let me know down below, leave a like if you want to support today's video, subscribe if you're new, and check out one of the videos on the end screen. Hope to see you guys again soon. Until next time, peace.